I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys. I appreciate Lions. It's an incredible organization that does a lot for our community and provides a vehicle for great people to work together and accomplish things in the world, which, I think we take for granted. I think lots of our community institutions are legacies of past groups of people that pulled together and made things happen. Um, and when you work for the city, you're very conscious of what the city can do and what the city can't do. Um, People assume that as the city government, we have wide reaching power to, bring in the businesses that we want or keep other businesses out or make there be, parks and libraries and all of these things. And we are very deeply limited by our financial capacity and also what we have the authority to do. And so much of what we have in our community that's great, we have not because of the city, but because of groups of individuals that took it upon themselves to work together and make things happen. And Lions is a vehicle for just that. And I'm grateful to you guys. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. The other thing I want to say before I start with questions is what my role is. Um, People periodically will ask me, what is your vision for Hillsboro? And while I have a lot of ideas, it is not my job to have a vision for Hillsboro. In fact, it is my job not to. My role is to be the midwife. I am not the mama. The baby is not going to look like me. My role is to stand by the side and say, push, come on, you can do it. We can do it. We can get there. Um, the community has to give birth to its future self. It has to be the community's desires, values, dreams, preferences, the things that the people of this town want to do and to have and to be. That is the guiding vision. And my job is to just provide technical expertise and encouragement along the way and to run the staff of city employees who are working that vision hopefully into reality. Um, so that's an important just framework for who I am and what I do. The other thing I'll say is that a lot of what we're doing today as a city comes from our strategic plan. Now we're in the middle of a comprehensive plan. We're in the middle of a comprehensive plan. A comprehensive plan is very technical. It's lots of engineering and maps. The strategic plan is more of a gut check. Where are we going? Who do we want to be in 10 years? What is going to make Hillsboro, still all the things that we love, but better, stronger, healthier, more vibrant? And we asked the community, again, I'm not the mama, we asked the community to tell us what that looked like. And those priorities are what we have been busy enacting ever since. So, number one was fix the streets. We've been working on that very diligently. I'm sure we'll talk about that in the future. Number two, do something about the outlet mall. We are absolutely doing that. Number three, come up with some more entertainment options. We've been working on that. Um, Lots of top priorities turn around and become policy because that's what the citizens of Hillsboro got together in a group and said they wanted. And so that is the only legitimate source of our direction. And then, of course, the council on a day to day basis provides policy updates, direction to staff. But so I'm sure you guys all know that, but just like Civics 101, that's the framework for everything that I can and can't do. Um, from there, I'd love to take some questions. Does anybody have a burning one just right off the top of their head? Yes, sir.
I'll go first.
Yes, sir.
Uh, I hope this is relevant, but I'm on the commission for historical district, okay? And we get people coming in, and we set the guidelines for what they can and can't do on the exterior of their building, whether it be business or homes. Um, we approve them and then they have to go to Main Street and they get denied. Then they have to come back to historical, and it's a back and forth process that has taken months for two people I know. And I've asked both of them if they knew they were going to have to go through all this, would they have bought that building? And they said no. Two reasons. One, they didn't realize it was going to be a back and forth thing. And two, when they purchased the building, they didn't realize they was going to have to go through all the process to do what they needed to do. Mm-hmm. If the Main Street Committee has to be involved, then why cannot one of them be on the Historical Commission so these people don't have to wait 3, 4, 5 months to do what they need to get done?
Okay. So the question is, for businesses or for people, property owners, or people looking to change a business that is a designated historic landmark or part of a historic district in the city, if it's downtown, they may have to get approval from both the Historic Landmark Commission and also the Main Street Board of Directors. This seems like it's a cumbersome process because if one board says yes, the other board says no, then we got an issue. This is a great example of that's a policy situation. I'm an executor. I don't make policy. The city council makes policy, and they decide what the boards and commissions have the power to do. And those boards and commissions make decisions that direct staff. So they are the boss of me. I'm not the boss of them. I think what I have seen the council try to do is come up with processes in which we're streamlining and trying to make things more accessible for businesses. I also know that where we have an opportunity to improve is when people purchase property, or even if they've already got the property and they may have forgotten, that is affected by those historic guidelines, that we're just periodically reminding them because they don't have to be cumbersome. If you've done business in bigger cities, the fact that Main Street and the Historic Preservation Commission both meet in a month, and then you can have your item heard a month later at the city council meeting is really fast. But you have to have known that was a thing that you were going to need to do. If you thought you needed 0 time and now it's taken a month, that can feel like a real kick. So I get that.
Well, we have one person that's waiting now 3 months and still has not been approved of what she needed to do in her business.
It's probably not fruitful for me to get into the specifics of an individual case right now, but I'd be glad to look into that after the meeting and find out what's going on there. Yes, sir. Y'all think of yes, sir.
Full pickup for trash.
Yes.
We seem to be awfully restricted. I mean, there's only 2 ways you can do it. You can do it by scheduling them, and it's only once a month, or you can go the last Saturday of the month out to which during leaf season seems to be very restricted when you have 15 bags of leaf. You can't even get a week. Is there any way we can open that up a little bit?
Only by paying a lot more for trash service. So the question is bulk trash pickup, meaning leaves, brush, things that don't go in the trash can. Our previous contract, we have not had bulk pickup curbside in 8 years. They did not do it in the last contract. It had been taken out. Before the last contract renewal. They did not include an option to put it back in when we went out for bid. The company that got the bid in part because their bid on just regular trash was lower, but also because the citizens had said, we miss having that bulk brush pickup. Can we add it back? And so we made that an alternate on the bid, and they added it. So what we are getting is compared to 0. And the restrictions are based on they had to know what they were bidding. And so there is a volume limit on what they will take curbside. And there is a volume limit on what they will take at the collection station. But if you're trying, I mean, the comparison is that you used to be able to once a month drive that same volume to the landfill in Itasca. And the deal that we have now is better than that. So while it is restricted, it is a lot better than we used to have. You can schedule, I mean, you can have them bid on doing it more frequently, but you're gonna pay the individual cost. Yes, sir. Okay, so the question is outlet mall. What's happening at the outlet mall? As you know, the city owns 2/3 of that property. The developer owns 1/3 of that property. The strip along the access road, and I looked today because I expected to get a question about it. And the strip along the access road that the developer owns is now valued by the appraisal district more than the entire mall was 3 years ago before we bought it from the uh, previous owner. So already, even with 2/3 of it being non-taxable because the city owns it, we are already doing better from a property tax perspective. In that strip along the access road, this is 300 feet deep from the access road all the way down the length of the mall. What is coming in is going from top down, see if I can remember the right order: Chick-fil-A, Panda Express, Chili's, and then on the south side, Waffle House. We have a coffee user that will be coming in, and the developer is currently talking to one other restaurant, fast food type, fast casual, and one retailer. We're interested in getting the first retailer in because obviously retail isn't what it used to be. Amazon has made it such that lots of retailers are not really expanding, but we think it's important to have a retail component because the community has told us you guys don't want to have to drive out of town to get the things that you want. So we're hoping to be able to make that retail piece happen. And then on the back part of the mall, behind that 300-foot strip where there will be these individual businesses, on the southern half, we will probably have some kind of warehousing distribution. I realize that's not exciting to anybody in this room. None of us, like, that doesn't mean we can go shopping anywhere. But the thing is, you need a certain amount of property value to make the rest of the deal make sense. And retail, as much as we like it, it makes our lives more convenient. Retail does not generate as much property tax value as it costs to maintain all of the infrastructure over time. So the warehousing logistics bit, we agreed to with the developer in the beginning to as sort of like a last resort, like the worst case scenario, there's a chunk of warehousing distribution because everybody knows that makes financial sense and it makes the thing work. If we got a big box there, that would be better. We just don't know that we will. So I know the developer is talking to larger retailers that could potentially go there, but I think what we are prepared for and what I want the community to be prepared for is like warehousing distribution on that southern half. On the northern half, we are keeping two buildings. The one we affectionately refer to as the Mallmageddon building, and the one that many of us older folks will remember as the Gap. Those two buildings are staying. Bath and Body Works has moved into that Gap building. And we will be tenanting those buildings with what we would consider to be intermediate retail uses, meaning they're going to make sense for the next 5, 10, maybe 15 years. Hopefully before 15 years, HEB or somebody like that is interested in coming to Hillsboro. And in that case, we've already got the land assembled and ready for them to locate. And then we're just moving individual businesses into different spaces in town or in the development in order to keep those businesses and still have that big box. So that's kind of the long-term plan. Um, one of the questions that I know people are wondering about is the cost of demolition. The demolition is costing about $1.5 million, so not cheap. We were very, very hopeful that it would be a little bit less than that. What they've found is that some of the piers underground, these concrete piers that are part of the building's structural formation, were bell shaped. That thing was solid. So like the lower down they go, the bigger it gets. They're like, oh man, this is really, affecting the cost of pulling all that stuff out and removing it. So $1.5 million worth of demolition. Obviously, we had cost of property purchase when we purchased it. The developer will pay us more for the property than we paid for it. So we will make our money back and then some on the southern and northern back pieces of the property when the developer draws those down to do those future phases. In the meantime, counting all of the demolition costs and everything, we are still projected to be revenue positive by 2030. So, by 2030, and that is just including the businesses that have already signed up. So even without the distribution, we are projected to be in the black by that point. So yes, it is expensive. Yes, people can ask like, couldn't you be fixing streets with that money? The answer is $1.5 million, like, doesn't really get you a lot of street. And in the meantime, by investing it now, we'll have broken even in another 5 years. And then after that, we're going to have more money for streets every year after that forever because we did this. So, that's sort of the reasoning. It's not an either or. It's to say, if you're not looking at next year and the year after that, but 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the line, what do we need to be doing now so that 30 years from now things are great and getting better? And it's a long game. When we did the deal in the first place, the developer said it will take 3 years before anything is done. And then, 12 months later, people were saying they said they were going to do stuff at the mall and nothing is happening and they're all liars. Guys, it just takes a long time. I mean, it you can use the word excuse, but we are describing the way things actually happen in the world. And people who do things like this know that this is the kind of time that it takes. If you're talking to somebody that's like, why can't they get it done in 6 months? That guy probably didn't ever build anything. I'm not trying to be ugly. That people assume that because we are small, the processes ought to be simple. And they are not. It is a lot more technically difficult to repair a water line or overhaul miles and miles and miles of utilities than just going. I saw somebody said, well, they reported a leak, and somebody else said, well, yeah, they should have been out there within the hour. If we had enough people that they were just sitting there waiting for a phone call, do you have any idea what that would cost? I mean, we are not staffed for immediate response. We are staffed for the long game. We are staffed for constant over years and decades. And that is trying to strike the right balance between keeping costs down and keeping quality up. And honestly, I would tell you that where we made mistakes in the past and getting that balance wrong is by trying too hard to keep costs down because we also kept quality down. And I think trying to get on the right side of that snowball is where we are right now. I'm so sorry. You guys are going to ask 2 questions. We're going to be here for 4 hours. I'll try to do better next time. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Do you have any, maybe can you share with the group any what we know so far about housing development? They probably read the paper, some do, some don't. How many and where?
Yeah, question is about residential development coming to the city of Hillsboro. There stays somewhere between 1,500 and 1,700 units of single family housing on our expected development list. So, south of the intermediate school, south of Old Bynum Road, there's a development called Somerset. That's going to be 520 units. The first phase of approximately 160 units is underway right now. The dirt work has been done. The streets are going to be going in. That just first phase is the biggest residential development in the history of Hillsboro. And then, of course, phases 2 and 3 are coming, shortly on the heels of that one. There's another development on the other side of Cho Street from that one. That one's about 60 units. The third phase of Patton's Mill is being built down close to the old mushroom plant. If you guys are old Hillsboro folks like me, there are about 60 units coming on the east side of Milford Road across the street from Old City Park. There's another development called Hillsboro Meadows, closer around the old mushroom plant, that is about 300 units. Um, a little bit here, a little bit there. We had about 30 or 40 units of infill just in the last 12 months. We're seeing an average of 25, 30 units a year in infill construction. I think the development pipeline is likely to slow down just a little bit. We've seen it slow just a little bit, partly due to materials and kind of supply chain over the last 12 months, but none of those projects have dropped out, which is really telling. To put it into perspective, let's say we had 1,500 new units over the next 8 to 10 years. The city of Hillsboro has about 3,100 single family houses right now. So that's an increase of 50% in the next 10 years. That's a significant increase. In addition, I think we can expect to see some good multifamily projects. The thing that's holding the multifamily projects back is getting the right size, because some of the requests that we've gotten have just been for hundreds and hundreds of units, and we've said, that's too much too fast. But between the expected increases in single family and multifamily, I think we're probably looking at something like 2,000 units over the next 10 to 12 years, which would put us at maybe 15, 16,000 people, if that all pans out. Yes, ma'am. For Somerset Phase 1, the vertical is D.R. Horton.
Do you know who the developer is?
The developer's name is Buddy Shepherd, the horizontal developer. And so typically the horizontal developer, the land developer, buys the land, puts in the utilities and the streets and and all of that stuff, and then they sell the lots ready to build on to a commercial home builder. I know that we don't expect Horton to do all of Somerset. They're definitely doing phase 1, and I think they're doing Park Terrace, which is the units that are on Milford Road east of the city park. Yes, sir.
Anything inside the Texas Theater?
So, question was about the Texas Theater. This is a love it or hate it kind of a situation. As you'll remember, I said we are guided by that strategic plan, and one of the very, very top things people said they wanted is more entertainment options. What that means is we've been out trying to find entertainment businesses that are willing to come to Hillsboro. We visited other communities because it's not going to be, I'm sorry to break this to you, it's not going to be Main Event. They go into big markets. It's not going to be Putt Putt. It's not going to be a brand that you've heard of. It's going to be a mom and pop situation that is maybe interested in opening a second location. So we have been out scouting mom and pop entertainment establishments to see who might be willing. We've not, we would be willing to give them, a really, really sweet deal out at the outlet mall since we control that space. Because that is a community priority. Now, if it's not a community priority, then they need to pay a fair market rate because we're not trying to underbid our citizens in this town who own commercial real estate, right? That would be terrible. The city is not um, in competition with private landowners, but we would incentivize something that would meet a community priority. So, like entertainment, we have not been able to bring in anything significant other than, and they changed their name. It's not, pardon? Fun Zone. Thank you. The Fun Zone, that is the bouncy house place on Covington Street, and they're a fantastic locally owned business. Go see them. Because the city owned the what we call a records building, it was municipal court building, black marble structure on Waco Street. We knew that we could move those records and store them more efficiently somewhere else, and so we did not need to keep that building. We listed it for sale, and the owners of the Texas Theater offered us to swap it, and the city council said yes. So the city will, and the transaction has not officially taken place yet, but the city will be the owners of the Texas Theater. There are a couple of things that make sense. Number one, this is what you guys said you wanted. You said you wanted entertainment. We have gotten consistent feedback on social media and in-person interviews where people have said, we would pitch in, we would donate, we would be on a committee, we would come to a work day. This is the kind of thing that we need in our community. And so that level of participation, we're convinced that there will be some community participation there. And let's face it, it will have to be there because the city cannot just bankroll making that a viable theater again. What we can do, and what I think it makes sense for us to do with city funds, is to prevent our one and only historic theater building from falling into disrepair and being lost, demolition by neglect. So we can put a roof on it. We can put probably HVAC. But in terms of making it awesome inside, I'm not sure that the political will is there to spend city resources at that level. So something that is an indoor version of the yard, where when it's really, really hot or really, really cold, you can bring your lawn chair inside and hear a concert. I think the city could get that done for a couple $100,000. And because this is a historic building and can serve, provide some resources to visitors, it is an eligible use of hotel occupancy tax, which cannot be spent on street repair or drainage or police and fire or any of our other critical needs. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't need it for other things. We do. So I want to be very clear that we're limiting, but it's not, are you putting money into the theater and not fixing my street? I said I'd be briefer. I'm not briefer, am I? Okay. Yes, sir.
Well, I was at Clarendon College a few years ago. The city had a theater very similar to the Texas Theater, the Multi Theater.
Mm-hmm.
No Ken Multi later. The Multi Theater. With grants, they renovated that old theater. We brought in theater seats. There's a stage. They're having stage productions. They have movies, first run movies every weekend, and it's making money. It's a great asset to me, and it's a smaller community, much smaller than this. We had 2,500 population there. I would encourage someone. I'll take them. They want a 5-hour trip, but they want to go out and see what they've done. It's fantastic. And they completely renovated that old theater. And it's now the heart of downtown Clarendon.
That's fantastic. There are a lot of theater stories across the state. Some of them are happy endings, some of them are not happy endings. But we at the city have a special projects coordinator whose job is to work on these unusual one off projects and to seek funds. She's been very successful so far in getting grants for various things. So searching for outside funding to help get projects accomplished is at the top of our list because local dollars aren't going to cover everything.
Primarily with grants.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Do you see, would y'all, if you get the hardest things done, and I know you had the architectural review by the Texas Historical Commission, and I think you got a grant to do that. If you got the big work done, would you consider selling it to a new owner in the future, or do you think, plan that it'll stay in the cities?
The question is, would the city ever sell a building? That's a council question. What I'll say is it it is hard to make the programming profitable enough to pay for the upkeep of the building. If you lease it to somebody for $1 a year, they can probably make money programming it. The convincing reason for the city to be the owner of the building is that 3 separate private ownership groups had taken it on and failed in the last 10 years. And the third group came to us and said, look, we don't think it'll survive another one of those. We think that if the city would own it and just make sure it doesn't fall down, then that part isn't in doubt or jeopardy. Then somebody else can potentially make it, program it and make that work. And, that's a powerful argument.
About 1255.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Back on the residential buildings coming in,
Yes.
what is the price range? Do you have any idea?
I know that, so the infill construction, some of those are being done by local folks and they're trying to keep the prices as low as possible. So we're seeing 240, 270. I know that on the Somerset the Somerset edition south of the intermediate school, I know nothing will be under 300, and some probably considerably more.
So it depends on the area, the division.
Really, it's just expensive to build houses these days. And for a developer who is paying to put in water lines and sewer lines and streets, the cost of that lot before you've put anything on it at all is pretty expensive. If you've got, a local developer that bought, the city just let go of a few lots that the city owned, so I think one of those lots may have gone for $5,000 and it's already got water lines and sewer lines and streets to it. You can deduct all of those costs and have a lower cost of house. That's part of why we're so anxious to see redevelopment in the core of our city, because we're already maintaining that infrastructure that will just give us more neighbors to help us pay for what we've already got to take care of. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If you're talking about that type of road, how is our infrastructure with sewage and water?
Yeah, great question. So the wastewater system, our treatment plant operates at roughly 60% of capacity. So theoretically, we have capacity at the wastewater treatment plant. The problem is when there's a big rain event, we do have what's called infiltration and inflow into that system, and it increases the flow into the plant. So we have an engineering firm assessing our so the wastewater system is divided into basins because it's all gravity. So you have a basin that feeds into an area, and then it either gravity feeds to the next basin or there's a lift station to get it out into the plant. We have an engineering firm looking at all of the lines and manholes in our most vulnerable basins to help us identify where we can do projects that will reduce that infiltration and inflow. The new developments themselves are, for the most part, putting in their own infrastructure. So that infrastructure will be great. They'll have great water lines and sewer lines and streets. It's not like it's all stacking on top of each other. So raise your hand if the phrase west of Cho triggers you. Okay. If you live west of Cho, your water is interrupted fairly frequently. If you don't, it's not. None of this new development is going into the area served by the downtown water tower, that area that is west of Cho. So those other the water towers create little mini separate water systems. They are connected, but they don't affect each other really. And so the area that's served by the downtown tower is the oldest, the least reliable, the most leaky, the most problematic. The Somerset edition is going to be served by the College Tower, which is it's not literally the newest because we just built a new industrial water tower, but it is a very newer system with better pressure, and it's just not in it's not vulnerable in the same way that the historic system is. However, because all of the water that we don't use, we still have to pay for. The more of the water that we already have to pay for, we actually use and bill for, the more money we have to fix water leaks. So people think, oh, you're bringing in more people, you're adding more users to a leaky system, that's bad. No. We're adding more payers to an underfunded system. That's very, very good. The lines that are in those new developments, we're not going to be out there fixing leaks, but we're going to be collecting those water bill payments. And the money from those water bill payments are going to pay people to go fix the leaks west of Cho. So that's going to help things get better. It's not the main thing, but it is a help, not a hindrance. Sorry, so lengthy. Yes, ma'am.
Before we go, do you want to make any statement on how on earth did BZ Watchdog find us, and is there any end in sight?
Okay, BZ Watchdog. So, BZ Watchdog was alerted to the city of Hillsboro because of an interaction that someone he knew had with one of our police officers. And he initially was focused on the police department, had many things to say, some of which I think long-term we can learn from. We may not appreciate the way the message is delivered, but in some cases, we have been able to take a look at what we're doing and make improvements, and we need to be grateful for cause to improve no matter how it comes. It is also the case, however, that this person is not a journalist in the sense that journalists do fact checking before they release things as true. And so there are a lot of things. I don't really look at all this stuff, but from what I have seen, it is the vast majority of things that are listed as facts are not factually true. I'll give you an example. There was an accusation of widespread theft at the outlet mall because 20 benches were removed from the outlet mall. He got this based on an open records request where he requested, anything with a keyword theft or sexual harassment, right? So one of the things that we sent him was an email that I had received from a professional association offering training on sexual harassment. Does that mean that I'm involved in sexual harassment? No, but there sure was an email to me about sexual harassment, right? So there's a text that has the word theft in the text. And yes, we have to turn over our texts. Talking about 20 benches that it said, looks like we may have 20 benches missing from the outlet mall. Come to find out, those 20 benches never belonged to us. They were on the developer's portion of the property and were removed appropriately by the demolition contractor. Now, a journalist would contact the city and would say, hey, it looks like this is, hey, what can you tell me about this apparent theft? And the city would have the opportunity to say, there was no theft, that wasn't city property. But that's not what happens. It's what is going to have the greatest appearance of sensation, and then that's the direction given. And someone could argue with me, but I just don't think it's the city's role to go back and forth with this person. We've got real work to do in the world. Anybody else?
Great answers. You've been very thorough. Thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate you saying thorough and not wordy. And if anybody else has a question, or maybe you just don't want to ask in front of the group, I will stay here as long as there are people and questions. But I know most of you guys have jobs to get back to and all that stuff. I appreciate you being here and being given the opportunity. It's an honor to be among you, and have a fantastic day.